right, everybody, let's get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm not going to sit in front of this mic the whole time. I can already guarantee you that. I'm going to move around a little bit. So just kind of want to welcome everybody to the pre-proposal meeting here for the General Engineering Services. This is now our 8th time advertising for General Engineering Services. So we've got a pretty good idea of the type of work that's going to come out of this. I'll kind of hit some of those. I'll talk a little bit about the overall proposals and just some of the I will get just some of the highlights of the proposals themselves, but then like I mentioned, talk about some of the work orders that we've experienced from the previous GECs, but then kind of give you a little bit of what our expectations of these contracts will be. You know, historically, the way these GECs have worked, they've been managed out of project management or program delivery now. They will coordinate with each individual discipline on those work orders. So negotiations, all of that is kind of a back and forth between project management and the technical discipline that's requesting the work. So how it typically works, if a need is been identified in the department, the discipline requesting the need will contact project management or professional services and request services. Then we start that communication through the GEC and start those negotiations. Just kind of want to give you guys an idea. When we talk about the GEC, it is coordinating a lot with project management. There's still a lot of coordination with the technical disciplines that's requesting these. As you can see in the actual the RFP, I believe we have A through W is the listing there. So this is where this differs from historical practices. We've always broke these up from traditional and alt delivery. Now we've merged these GECs moving forward. So this is pretty much the simple terms. If we do it in the department, we're able to work through this contract to get that work done. Just one topic I want to say before we started is just, you know, we will still have some of our on-calls and some of our other work order or in some of our other disciplines, very specific on-calls will still go on. We'll still have our general project-specific work orders as well, or proposals coming in, or advertisements coming in the future as well. So one key difference here, everybody sees this is 3 contracts in this GEC, so not like previous where we've done 1. I think all delivery we did 3 as well. So the total ceiling for those 3 contracts is $200 million. Where we're going to quantify that when we first start and we hire these 3, or we get these 3 firms under contract, we will probably do a base contract on that. We'll probably say up to $5 to $10 million base contract. Everything after that base contract will be really based on your ability to provide the resources and how you actually perform in those work orders. So that's the biggest key here is there's no, granted, we're not saying every firm gets a set split of that $200 million. We're going to work who can provide the resource to the department. Kind of working through these proposals. Like we said, 8/6 is our due date for that. Some of the scoring there will be on your project experience and your overall project approach. That will also be scored in the presentation portion and that 15% as well. Just limited this. I know it's very difficult when I say A through W to 120 pages, but we had to limit that. I know it's very difficult for everybody. And then we also, section E, we limited those resumes to 1 resume per staff member. We're looking for a very multidisciplinary team here. So we want to see the wealth of that experience, not just multiple groups, you know, showing a lot of different resumes. So we want to see that wealth of your team building and see those resumes. Presentations will be scheduled no earlier than 3 weeks after 8/6. Based on my schedule and a few others, we may be mid to late August, maybe even early September before we have those presentations. The top 6 firms and the actual scoring in that 3-week period, we will take those proposals. We will score those proposals, and the top 6 will actually go to the presentation phase of the RFP. Presentations will be held, like I said, at the end of August, maybe even early September. Held in Nashville, we typically do 1 hour per firm to talk. We give you 45 minutes for a formal presentation. We allow 15 minutes for a question and answer in those presentations. The way we've historically done that, we give 1 hour. I set a clock when we go start that presentation. When that clock expires, the interview's over. So just kind of setting the ground rules as we start. And our overall goal here is this GC contract to be awarded in September of 26. Payments. This time we've kind of learned from our previous GECs. We're pretty much any payment method that we have available in the department, we're going to utilize that. So cost plus fixed fee, lump sum, cost plus per unit, and then specific rates on compensation. Again, payments are going to be based on the Fed, your state, or a combination is really based on how the project is funded. So, you know, I know there's a lot of misconceptions of if we're working on interstate, that is federally funded. That's not necessarily the case. It depends on how TDOT is funding the project. So just kind of make sure everybody's aware of that as we start working through these. Work orders, again, they're anticipated to carry over. We have a significant amount of work orders under project management currently. We have embedded consultants that work with TDOT daily. Probably 30% of my staff is embedded out of these GECs that manage our active projects. They're very integral to our delivery process. Very similarly, right-of-way management and support. Currently, we have groups involved in the appraisal, the agents, other right-of-way, and just right-of-way support and management support of our right-of-way projects are supplied to us through the GECs. Environmental coordination is another big one. In the GECs, we've worked through programmatic agreements. We've worked through S&Os. We've worked through actually a complete program now. We have under one of our GECs, the full safety program is managed for the environmental side is managed out of one of the GECs. So it kind of varies based on the actual need of the group. And then finally, our resurfacing plans development. We've utilized that under our GECs to actually develop all of our resurfacing plans. We've also pushed that now where the groups are managing some of our on-call consultants delivering the pavement program. So a little different there as we're trying something new this year. And then the expectations, some key things that I'm looking for, and I think some of the teams or the scoring team is looking for is bring your technical expertise. We're looking for a multidisciplinary teams here as we work through these proposals, providing that engineering knowledge and expertise into our projects. The project management experience and that expertise, really looking for an experienced project managers that can really handle the management of the scope, the schedule, the budget, the risk. I would also say stakeholder engagement is a big part of the project management side that's internal and external at TDOT. So that's something we're looking for. The rapid response to the work order request. This is very difficult, and we know that, but we are looking for you to be able to mobilize your teams very quickly when work orders are requested. The way these GECs work, they are very, I would say, quick-paced work orders that we get together very quickly. Typically work off a verbal, and then as we're negotiating to get the work started, we do give time, and we understand people aren't just sitting there doing nothing. So we understand there's time, but there is an expectation of a very rapid response to work order request. Problem solving, one thing as we work through here, a lot of especially the embedded GECs that are working with us currently, we're looking for them to act like a TDOT employee and be embedded into TDOT. Looking at, either operational or even technical challenges, seeing what those are, and then finding really results to solve those problems or issues. Quality management is another thing we're looking for, not only in the actual delivery of the deliverables, is looking at a quality product, but also the team together has a quality assurance process that's been developed. Team collaboration, this is a big one. This is not only including in your team as a prime and a sub. I mean, some of that collaboration, make sure everybody's communicating correctly, but also communicating with TDOT. Currently, we do biweekly meetings that talk through all the active work orders. We go through every single one of those on these GEC contracts. So I'd say communication is a big part as we work through. We communicate through our technical disciplines, but also in project management, who's leading those contracts. I will say one key thing you probably noticed, we did talk about, I believe in here in the advertisement is talking about progress reports, make sure progress reports are being completed on all the active work orders and keeping us up to speed. A big part of that too is also the burn down rate of the contract. So we make sure we're tracking that as well. Communication has become a bigger and bigger part of what we're doing at TDOT, involving comms into our project team. So that's communication, not only between you and your subs, but also communication with TDOT, knowing when to, I would say, elevate issues to higher levels, be able to handle, I would say, executive level meetings, and be able to handle those conversations is a big thing we're looking for. And then finally, innovation. We hear a lot about innovation. Sometimes innovation can be just a small benefit that really pushes and really drives cost saving measures, even efficiency. That's what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be, when we talk about innovation, it can be a small change, can make a huge difference. That's what we're looking for here, and seeing of how we work. That is one thing in the GECs that you'll see. Is if you're one of the three that are selected for this contract, you will see a lot of kind of behind the scenes of TDOTs and working of TDOT. Want to make sure that you provide that innovation and benefits that maybe we have a proven process, but maybe it's not the best process. Feel free to bring that to our attention as we're working through these contracts. I went longer than I thought I was going to. 10 whole minutes here, guys. So that's really, the GC, like I said, we're A through W on this process, on all the work order is a lot of different steps, a lot of different opportunities for everyone. One thing that we still show in this work order, just want everybody to know, is we do show structures are still a part of this. Structures will be following up with their own GEC, so I don't see a tremendous amount of structures being handled under this contract. So with that, I wanted to open it up to questions.
Does that apply for CE&I as well?
It's been kind of a case by case. I think it's going to vary on, number one, when those contracts come into play, because I think this will be the first. There still will be some C&I here based on the need, how quick we need to get that need, if that makes sense. One key here, let's say we do a GEC and resources are very limited. If I would say the more specific C&I GEC can't provide the resources, we may look at other GECs to provide those resources. I did such a great job explaining, no questions. Yeah.
Do you anticipate this to be managed more centrally or at the regions?
It'll be more centrally. So historically myself, I've managed a lot of it. Brad Abel is now managing the GEC currently. I still see us both being a part of this, especially if you're talking about 3, just with the time. It'll probably be one that Brad will probably have the overarching management. I will probably be brought in as to work with one of the GECs as we go through this process. So, and there may be another person from HQ managing. So each one of us will be managing one. One thing I kind of brushed over is the collaboration part. When you're talking about this, we will probably bring all 3 of these firms together monthly and discuss the work orders. So that's a big part here, because there may be points where we have work orders. Let's say it's right away. I'll say there's team 1, 2, and 3. Team 1 and 3 may have the resources. Team 2 may not. So I need to bring them in and make sure they're communicating of how we fulfill those resources. So a big part of this, I will tell you, is a lot about communication. As you work through, it's a lot about, especially if we were talking about the embeds, getting them access to our systems, making sure we have everything ready to go. So whenever someone is brought on, we're able to work day one instead of 2 weeks of trying to get them access, and then we've lost 2 weeks. So we've kind of made a lot of, I would say, steps in our growth and how we onboard our consulting partners over the last 4 years now. Yeah, Brad.
What role or overlaps? Maybe you can talk to the PMC on this side of things.
So there always would be some on the programmatic side, the PMC. If we're looking at more like S&O, or SOP type, I would definitely see overlaps there for the current work. Right now, I mean, a lot of on the traditional side, the PMC has probably been a more limited role in the oversight, alt delivery and P3 a lot more. So it's just the way we've historically been doing it. Not saying that as we change the department, there may be more involvement. But again, we'll make sure we're communicating that in plenty of time. Make sure we're communicating those either biweekly meetings or those monthly meetings, so everybody is aware. Yes.
The date of when you'll announce the top 6?
So we won't be a formal announcement. We will actually reach out to the top 6 and provide those dates. Probably come from professional services to actually schedule those interviews. Historically, we can get those done in a day or 2. So it'll be very quick. Typically give a 1 hour time slot, and then to make sure you're there. I think we said 10 people total in those interviews. So that's just how we've done them.
You're not going to post that though? 6 shortlisted?
We weren't, because it's still part of phase 2. So it's not a phase 2. Phase 2 is not complete. You've got the proposal part is a portion of phase 2, and then the presentations interviews is the second part of phase 2. I heard there was gonna be a lot of questions. Anybody online posted anything? Okay.
Are you taking questions on scope items, or is this more?
It can be that, yeah. It depends on if it's too difficult, then I will not be accepting questions.
The roadway technology support, it says assist with and perform activities related to roadway technology support. And I was just curious, kind of what TDOT had in mind for that item.
I think it's a little bit, when we first started these RFPs, it was including everything we do in the department.
Okay.
And, if they have if those groups have on-calls that can cover that, we will continue to use those on-calls. We're not going to stop that. It's just, let's say if something comes up, like, a big thing I know we all talk about it is project-wise and making sure we get project-wise set up, for all of these, maybe a point there where we look into a possible help of design staff for project-wise implementation. I don't know. And that's what's, I hate to say, that's what's the good part of this. Is also the scary part of this contract is you necessarily don't know. I mean, I know when we've done these each time, we've had an idea of how we're going to utilize those. That changes based on our need and our staffing internally at TDOT as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the life cycle planning? What your expectations are?
So a little bit more of the life cycle planning is more of the asset management as we're looking through all of our projects. We used to show this a lot in the IPD, how we plan, how we design, how we operate, how we maintain. That's really our life cycle we're looking at here. So a lot of that's going to be more on the asset management side of the house. Unfortunately, that's not my expertise, so I'm not going to get a lot more detail other than that. But that's more of what I see the life cycle is more of an asset management responsibilities.
James, on the collaboration or the public engagement and that kind of stuff you spoke about, I mean, PDOT's still taking the lead on that, though. Right?
Yes. Yep. It'll be I will say it's be very clear what the role is and if TDOT is handling it or if a GEC is going to handle that role. We're talking about comms, or if we're doing a project specific comms, there may be a time where we're looking at a comms group coming in and aiding the department to be, I would say you're probably seeing a lot more changes in how the department communicates, being a little more proactive instead of so reactive. So we're probably going to, especially as we're making changes to the PDN, bringing comms in as a technical discipline. So you're going to see a change in how that role of comms is changing. It used to be more of, I would say more external. We want to be a little more comms friendly and make sure we're communicating across our teams. Anybody from the back want to throw a question out there?
Will's
Oh.
next.
I got somebody online. I just posted a question. It popped off for just for a second, then
Just go on with yours.
okay.
Will SASHTO impact the timing of the interviews?
That's kind of yes. Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I'm in the I guess the committee on design in Des Moines the week prior, and then in SASHTO the next week. So that's driving some of those changes there in the schedules. So our goal here is still to get an award. Make a recommendation by mid-September to be finally awarded. Yeah.
That's to me directly, I guess. Okay. Can you prime to specific components, or in order to prime, just submit on all?
Yes, you're priming on all A through W.
But you can only so if you submit as a prime, you could say you're only gonna cover yourself, maybe like A through L, and then use a sub.
Yeah. How you team is definitely up to you and how you want to handle the team. And there's no, I don't think we say there's any specific saying you have to self-perform so much of the work. It's very open. Like we're looking for a very diverse team here.
The presentation list of meeting participants be made available.
Yes, the presentation will be posted on the professional services website, along with the recording and then a copy of the sign sheet.
Oh, you are seeing.
Don't keep asking questions. I'm just typing.
Yes.
You had mentioned lifecycle planning is similar in nature to asset management. In the descriptions of the sub-scopes of services, if there are overlap, like environmental support for FHWA, for instance, in the planning and environmental section, but it's also referenced somewhere else, if the proposal is broken up according to A through W, do you want us to mention it twice?
For me with a 120-page limit, is that 120 page? I would probably say, if it's very specific, like a bullet point, I would say refer to the other section. You're going to have to be very creative, and we understand that with the 125 or 120 page limit.
Another question online. When will shortlisted firms know to prepare for interview? How long from notice to expected interview date?
We will give you at least two weeks, I would say, to prep for interviews prior. I don't have a set date yet on the short list. I mean, I would expect it to be pretty quick. You may even have a little more time. I'd probably say 3 weeks would be our scoring time. Then we would reach out to the professional service, start scheduling those. But what I will say is just due to the conflicts with other meetings and already set, it may be a longer time from the time we actually tell you and you actually have the presentations. So it's going to be probably longer than a 2-week period.
It'll be no sooner than.
Yes.
6.
Is choice lanes gonna remain pretty siloed from this?
Yes.
But not a whole lot of
No,
cross-pollination?
I think we have an intent, do we not, on the current, on the additional choice lane work?
Anything specific to the choice lanes will go through either the existing contract or the new contract that is, new advertisement that is out right now.
Okay, yep.
The P3 work that's included in this broad GEC scope is more just for tiny little things that would come up and be more like programmatic as opposed to like project specific.
Yeah. I see people scratching their heads and I always think they're going to ask a question and they put their hand down. So,
Says you have.
yeah, gotcha.
What's the specific intent for CEI under this contract? I know it wasn't in, now it's back in.
Yeah, like I said, it's just it's really an overlap basically for us. The more I'd say opportunities to be able to get to additional firms, I would say it's just including, our goal or our hope is the CNI and the ME and I will be covered under the other GC. It's like,
There's no intent.
yes, yeah,
The intent is fully to use the other one. This would just be more of like, heaven forbid, some come up, we use all the money out of the other one, we got money over here.
I would say just flexibility. The more flexibility you have to deliver is going to help us. So this gives us another option to look at additional resources.
I guess to follow up to that, a group of engineers here always want to know, okay, so do we need to address CEI in this proposal?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I would definitely make a concerted effort to hit A through W in the proposal. Yes, Amy.
And James, you don't have to be, you may or may not know, but you mentioned, and even back in Chattanooga, it was mentioned that there will still be on calls.
Yes.
When is DDOT? Is there a time frame for when some of that starts being identified? Are they identified already?
Yeah, I would say as the current on-calls, as they start running their courses, you'll start seeing additional on-calls kick back on.
If the need arises, we'll
Yep.
basically take a view of like that.
Yeah.
That need and see if it works better to put it into the broad GC or, some of the specialized stuff, like we just put out an advertisement for the open road stuff, so that's very specific, so that one went out. So if there's like specialty ads, those will probably come out. But if you have questions, I would just encourage you to reach out to the divisions themselves because they'll be involved in the conversations.
I just bring it up, these contracts can spend a lot of money
Mhm.
doing geotechnical work and survey work. Those traditionally been on call, so it kind of like the CEI, we spend a lot of money doing CEI too. and,
Yep.
just throwing those out.
I mean, I think that's the key though, is this gives us additional flexibility. If, let's say, the burn down is coming in faster than we anticipated, we still have an option to either re-advertise additional GCs or use an on-call. I mean, historically, the on-calls have not been utilized to their fullest. That's been the concern of the department. I held one myself on the concepts section. I think historically there was like 10 firms and we reduced them to 4 and we used about half of those. Is it really necessary to have an on-call when they're not being utilized? Like, I think these give us a better opportunity to fully utilize the overall contract with a more diverse group than just one firm, two firms.
As far as presentations go, I guess, PowerPoint
Yes,
is expected, videos are okay.
yes. Yep. Yeah, and if any other questions come in on the presentations, feel free to reach out. I mean, the only thing we're pretty strict on is just the number of people.
Sure.
So, if you come in the interview or the presentation and you have 10 and you want somebody to run your computer for presentation, you better drop somebody else out because it's only going to be 10 coming into the room.
Yeah.
Is there a preference between an 11 by 17 organizational chart or multiple 8.5 by 11 pages?
No.
No.
Yeah, you guys come up with your proposal. That's up to you. I mean, the sheet size, everything is up to you guys.
So follow-up, 11 by 17, counts as one page.
It does for that. Don't be going crazy though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 Good question. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I would say more for your org charts, those type of things. 11 by 17 is fine.
Sure, so
Yeah,
like, you need
yeah.
to- That's right, but.
yeah,
Hold on.
yeah. Project resumes, project should be 8.5 by 11. Yes.
For staff augmentation, James, are you mostly looking at those 4 buckets you presented earlier, or?
I will be honest with you, that changes based on our resources internally at TDOT. I mean, we start a lot of these work orders. I was not expecting to use staff aug as much as we have. But as people have moved around in the department with the epic changes, we've seen where we need additional resources. So it's something that it's across the board. I mean, we've had people in a construction management office for a period of time. As someone retired, we needed somebody with expertise. Somebody came in for 6-7 months and worked with TDOT staff, basically managing a TDOT office for a period of time. So it really depends on the need of the department. I know I'm giving you very generic answers, but I mean, when I say there's no scheduled work. If that, there's key ones that we know, like I highlighted, those are the ones that have been on every contract so far. So that's the reason why I provided those to you, so you would know.
You don't ask your questions now, you have to submit them to us and we'll get a quick response. So just know about that.
That one.
Yeah.
There are folks that are already doing that now. Is that like looked upon as like you want to carry on not just the same function, but the same people?
So for there's going to have to be some overlap. When you talk, especially project management, we've got, like I said, we've got 30% of our staff is actually managing our active projects. They just can't be cut off today and expect those projects to be delivered. There's got to be some continuation there. So, there'll be a lot of that. Let's say if that firm was not selected or whoever's working, if they're a sub on that work, we would hope to keep them on for a period of time until we can have that transfer of knowledge. That's where that whole collaboration part comes in, because this is going to be, it's a challenge when you're talking about contracts when they end and make sure continuity of work continues.
Thank you.
I guess I should have went to this slide and then that opened up some more questions. I just now realized I never switched it.
Oh, it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are y'all looking for teams of certain sizes? Like if we, like 15, 20, 25 subs, like is there?
I would expect a team around that size. Yes.
But it doesn't have to be. that.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be that. Yeah. It's just when you're looking at, there's a lot of work in there that's very specialized that mainly only one sub can do. You're going to have to make sure you've addressed that and you have that team member on your team. Yes.
On the same subject of subs, are you going to release the sign-in sheet for subs to be able to take a look at
Yes, the
get
signage
installed.
sheet will be posted on the professional services webpage. Under the ad.
Yes.
So on the topic of subs and making sure every single thing is covered, would you anticipate having a sub for every single thing that could pop up? Like, I'm thinking like right-of-way appraisers and NEPA tech studies and traffic counts, so like all the things.
I think that's gonna be very difficult, how broad we are in this work order or this advertisement. It's gonna be one where how you feel like you're satisfying A through W ultimately. That was really too, the reasoning behind the additional pages for the resumes. It's to kind of give you a set grouping of resumes, but give you more time to talk about your approach, where you can maybe discuss some of those key topics.
Another question online. Is it the department's intention to split the work equally between the three contracts, or one or two teams be the primary GCs and the third be a smaller one?
No, they're all going to be equal. I mean, when we talk about work orders, I mean, I've kind of had a lot of conversations of how we would manage this. The way I see this, especially if it's one where you're looking for someone very quickly, the way I would probably do it, say we got our three firms, a firm 1, 2, and 3. Let's say I'll reach out to firm 1 first. I will request a resource. If they tell me they have the resource, I will stop that conversation and we'll continue with firm 1. If firm 1 says, hey, I can have that resource, but it's going to be 3 weeks, I'm going to go to firm 2, ask them the exact same question. If they give me the same answer, I'll go to 3 and same question again. So again, remember I talked about early on is the work will be determined by the resources you have available and then how you perform those actual contracts. So trying to make this as fair as possible. I also don't want to put you in a situation as a prime, you're out, let's say, looking for an individual and I'm pacing you against firm 2. That's not fair to you guys. So we're going to make sure that I would always go back to firm 1 if the other firms do not have anyone available. And a big part of those biweekly meetings is discussing a lot of this conversation. That monthly meeting will be very similarly where we would all get together and discuss the possible future needs is a big part of what those biweekly meetings are. So you're not caught off guard unless I'm caught off guard with a request from a technical discipline. I try to make sure the GEC is also very knowledgeable of what the future needs are, what's coming down, or possible future work. Yes.
How do you determine which firm sits in those seats, 1 through 3?
It's just we have 3 firms. There's no room. I mean, I'm just going to start with one. I'm not going to go alphabetical. I'll just pick one. So there's no set order. Nothing else? Oh, somebody just popped something up.
How closely will the GEC interact with the PMC?
Yeah, kind of discussed that earlier. It's really it's going to vary just due to the role of the PMC currently involved more in the all delivery and the P3. I would say, some of these work orders are with all delivery. There will be some involvement with the PMC. The traditional side right now, probably not as much. So it's just the way the PMC is they're more integrated into our all delivery side versus our traditional side. So that's going to vary by work order. Last question. Speak now. Nothing online? All right. Thanks everybody for your time. I appreciate it.
Make sure you sign the sign-in sheet.
Yes.
Will be a complete waste of time for you.
Killing it.